Morning, all. Welcome back. So, I started up a News of the Day board yesterday, and I thought, nah. And I did the Michel Goulet video instead, and the prospect video instead. So, we're going to go through the news of the last couple of days and what's going on around the NHL as we get really, really close to these players heading to the hub. A couple of days from now, they'll all be in Toronto or Edmonton, and then we go from there. And then it's on. And some teams feel pretty confident about their chances. While we'll see how things turn out. Which of the 24 teams is still confident, say, a week from now? So I'm wearing Oilers because Broberg has really pushed his way into the conversation as potentially being a regular on the Edmonton Oilers blue line with the return. And again, this is where things are going to be different. So we've had so many months off in between that, yeah, guys who should be, rookies for next season are now in a position where some of them are able to play now, and some of them, of course, are not, depending on when contracts are signed and all that other wonderful stuff. So Broberg could be one of those guys who makes a big difference for Edmonton. That if he is truly ready to play top six in the NHL, maybe top four, that could be a huge difference maker. And I think this is going to be the most unpredictable playoffs we've had, easily. Andreas Janssen yesterday was skating before Leafs practice, and so he is close. And I would think he's probably going to play for Toronto. Toronto seems to be pretty confident. Ilya Mikheyev gets a hat trick yesterday, and he is declared their MVP for the Phase 3 training camp. So, yeah, things look good if you're a Toronto fan right now. And we'll see again in a week and a half from now whether or not that confidence is still up here or whether something happens to cause that to drop. New York Rangers are still not in a position to have to name a starter, and they're not going to. And they really don't need to. I mean, when you think about it, Shesterkin should be the guy. He's 10-2 and all that. But the reality is they don't really need to name a starter. I mean, it's got to be Shesterkin. It kind of has to be. But again, training camp, somebody could come out, like King Henrik could come out after all this time off and just be absolutely fantastic. And then they could go to Shesterkin and go, sorry, Henrik's won the net back. So we'll see what happens. So yesterday was Seattle Day. And clearly the numbers tell me that yesterday all that anybody really cared about was Seattle. Part of the reason I didn't really bother to finish up and do a quick news of the day yesterday. Because Seattle was just overwhelming everything else. And rightfully so. Now, while people may or may not like the name, and it feels like some love it and some hate it, and that's pretty standard. Anytime that a team comes out with a name, there's going to be people who love it and hate it. I think it's fine, and I think the uniforms are really nice, and the uniforms seem to be a real hit. So the uniforms that we're not going to be able to buy until next summer, from all accounts, they are a hit, and they do look really, really nice. So again, the logo is a throwback to the old Seattle Metropolitans, and there are hints of the Kraken name in how the logo is designed. And I think we'll be debating the name until the team takes the ice, and then after that, it just kind of goes away. But I part of it is that there are just people who don't like the city of Seattle. They don't want Seattle to have an NHL team necessarily. There's definitely a lot of people snipping at Seattle with a lot of the same comments that Vancouver would get if we didn't have the Canucks and we were getting a brand new expansion team. A lot of the exact same things would get thrown at Vancouver. So there are reasons that I think about it, and I think Shannon, you're probably going to find yourself cheering for Seattle if they're not against Vancouver. You're probably going to want them to do well because the city is one that you identify with and you've been to a few times, and it's not that far from here. So, yeah, we'll see. But again, we'll see because there's the possibility that right out of the gate I'm like, I don't like these guys at all. Probably not, though. Crosby, back at Penguins practice. So, again, I'm not trying to report too much on the guys who are or aren't on the ice. For instance, I saw Samsonov, I think, is still not on the ice for the Capitals. But they have Holtby, and they're not in the bubble yet. So, I'm not... when a goalie's not on the ice, and it's a guy who should be the backup, because Holtby, being Holtby, should be the starter, it's not as big a deal as with Crosby. So, Crosby... Joining the Penguins for practice, like I said, he's just building up dramatic tension. It's kind of what he does. Speaking of tension, John Tortorella not scared to call out his team where he thinks that there's a lack of effort taking place. I respect Tortorella on this. That they have a scrimmage game at 6-0, and he was like, "Yeah, no, it's kind of crap." And he says he likes where the team is. He likes how well they've done in Phase 3, but he's not happy with how that scrimmage game looked. He's not happy with certain players and how they played yesterday. So I have to say again, John Tortorella, one of the best coaches in the NHL, that he's able to still have his throwback way of doing things without offending people and offending players and causing a whole bunch of outrage, because he has a different demeanor now than he used to have, but he'll still call people out. Just ask Larry Brooks. So yeah, again, I do like that he's not just giving pat answers. He's saying, "No, I wasn't happy with that out there today. They better smarten up." Now, details on how Hub Life's going to work for these players, and how they're going to do the broadcasts, because I've had tons of people, speculating on what may or may not happen. They will have a 5-second delay. From what I understand, that's going to just be globally. There'll be a 5-second delay because players might swear. To which I answer, that's been going on for years. Are we just finding out now that players might use foul language on the ice or on the bench? I've been hearing it for decades. I never thought it was a big deal, but all right. The Cup logo will be at center ice. So there's been a lot of what logo will be at center ice. I thought they might use the NHL logo. Stanley Cup will be at center ice. That's fine too. It's a decent looking logo. Because again, you can't have the Toronto logo or the Edmonton logo at center ice, because that doesn't work. They will also have LED screens behind the benches, and the whole presentation sounds like it's going to be pretty impressive. There's crowd noise is going to be added, and they're talking about like EA crowd noise, and I'm thinking, oh, not the EA crowd noise. But they're also going to have chants that fans recorded, and they're going to have that piped in. Again, they didn't mention goal horns, but I'm just going to say straight out, all the goal horns are recorded, so they will definitely have your team's goal horn for when they score a goal, and the goal horn for the other team when they allow one. 32 cameras, apparently that's about 12 more than normal in an NHL arena, and because of the fact there won't be fans in attendance, they are able to put these anywhere. And that should make for some really, really interesting camera angles. And I haven't heard about the player tracking stuff yet. I know they were supposed to do that for the playoffs this year. I haven't heard anything yet. You guys can mention in the comment section below if you've heard that is happening. I haven't heard that it is. I wouldn't be surprised if it does happen at some point in the playoffs, but I haven't heard it yet. The hubs. So for the players, players are going to be isolated, of course, from their families throughout until the conference finals, when those last Final Four teams are able to have their families there. 14 restaurants in each hub. That's not bad. 14 restaurants, bars, pubs, food trucks, coffee shops. 8 movie theaters. So that's pretty solid. Activity spaces and player lounges. And by activity spaces, we're talking like football field type activity spaces. So players will be able to go out in this bubble life they're going to have, and relax and play around and have some sense of normalcy within the bubble. Because again, that socializing and all of that, the stuff that we're all kind of looking at 2020 and saying we don't do that anymore, that's something that hockey players are looking at as well. And I think it'll build some really strong team camaraderie, because they're all kind of trapped in this bubble together. So I really think these teams are going to galvanize together like we haven't seen before. It'll be very interesting to see how this all goes and how this all works out. Of course, last night Major League Baseball made its return, and I went to watch a part of the Yankees-Washington game, and I'm like, oh, and it's rained out. Of course it is. Because of course it is. So, it's just, that's how it works. But yeah, we won't see that with hockey. There won't be any rainouts, and it's going to be interesting to see how this season goes. And of course, I want to close on this. This is still something going on around Carolina. So Dougie Hamilton was reported to be healthy and coming back, and Dougie Hamilton's going to be on the ice for Carolina. Well, it looks like Hamilton's hurt again. And so again, because they're not releasing anything about injuries during phase 3 and phase 4, we're just left to speculate. But it does look like Dougie Hamilton may miss some time for the Carolina Hurricanes. And that's a huge difference on their blue line. If Hamilton is unable to play to start that series against the Rangers, that is a massive blow, considering the Carolina Hurricanes are already considered to be minor underdogs against the New York Rangers, just from the fan vote and odds and all that. But yeah, Dougie Hamilton, if he's not in their lineup, that will make a major difference. But we'll see, right? So again, I'm trying not to report too much on guys who are or aren't on the ice. In this case, it's major. And yes, there are players who are coming out and revealing that they've had COVID and have recovered from it, and discussing their experiences with it. And again, this is what it was designed for. This wasn't designed so that we would never find out that a player got ill or tested positive. This was that they would choose when it was revealed, and this would be their decision. So, all right, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.